Hello. What is up, Van? You're all good for being 3 minutes late. I'm technically 2 hours late on when I wanted to start stream, so 'tis fine. I went out with some friends last night and got home at like 2:30 a.m. I want to say. Take a look when I sent my message. 2:45. Got home at 2:45 a.m. and I was like, I'm gonna sit down. I'm a code. Yeah, I sat down and I started working on the weapon system that we're gonna continue today, and my eyes were just so like done. I just couldn't do it. So yeah. Yeah, it's a good little 5 hours of sleep, you know? I technically only got 6 yesterday, which was why I was so tired, but I was also the designated driver, so I probably should have gotten more sleep. But it is what it is. All right, where was I last night? Shoot. Okay, brother, I swear. Stupid. All right, so the big thing with the weapon system is the way I was doing it previously. I thought that this would be a good way, and this is the way like I did my weapon system initially. Is I had data assets for each weapon, and that held all of the data regarding that weapon. So, you know, it holds like the fire rate, the fire type, the spread, the, you know, its ammo data, you know, whether it has a battery. I've never liked this approach because even when I was doing it in a data table in Gen 2, the issue with this approach is that you have a lot of meaningless variables in here. Like, you know, let's say the spread. Okay. Sure, majority of weapons are going to need that. What about a sword? A sword is a melee weapon. It doesn't have or need spread. So that's a useless variable for something like a sword, or the disc where you like that's the gun that you throw, or like the knives, or like the throwing knives whenever I get those back in. Those haven't been in since Gen 1. Those are like, you know, those don't have spread because they're not necessarily a gun. Same thing with like the fire type. You know, I would swap this from semi-auto to like melee or charge, and then, well, for charge weapons you need now a hold time, a release time, like all of these different variables that are just kind of useless. Something like fire rate. Probably gonna one-shot headshot, yeah. I haven't fully figured out the gameplay for the throwing knives. What's up, Kubi? I am doing fantastic. Very tired, but I got my coffee here, so. But there's 2 reasons that I need to upgrade this weapon system. 1, to make it more modular. 2, to allow something that people have asked me for in Gen 2, and because I was doing it this way in Gen 2, it wasn't really possible. But basically, people had asked me to be able to allow them to create custom weapons in Atlas, in the creative mode in Atlas. So, and I was like, oh, this is not possible because the way I have it set up. The way we're doing it now is we're breaking things up into different components. So we've got components now for the fire types. So we'll have a component for full auto, a component for semi-auto. If the gun doesn't have a fire type, then it just won't have a fire type. Though technically everything will have a fire type because it'll just be like, oh, is this a throwable? Is this a melee? Like the fire type will be melee. And stuff like that. Actually, technically melee would, I guess, be considered like, I guess melee would technically be considered semi-auto. Technically. But we're gonna break it up into different components That way we can make things. Yeah. Well, I'm not doing it because of them. This is just a... This is just a happy side effect. A happy accident of being able to do it this way. In theory, I should be able to allow people to create custom weapons, because they'll just say, add, you know, I'll hopefully should be able to create a custom menu for people to create custom weapons. Like, you could create your own weapon that shoots the disc. Like, you know, you could create something that literally is like a... there was a gun in Gen 1 Onyx called the chainsaw gun, where it would shoot this bouncing chainsaw that would bounce around and kill people. It was super fun. That got reworked into the disc, which takes a little bit more skill. It's, you know, got the Tron theme. You could set it up. You could add a projectile spawner component onto, like, you could create a custom gun. You could say, hey, this uses the assault rifle animations as the base animations, and then you give it a full auto component, you give it a projectile spawner component, you set up all the settings in those components, and you give it like an ammo or like a magazine ammo component. That's one of the reworks I also have to do, is rework my magazine ammo and stuff like that. But essentially you should be able to, like, you know, okay, yeah, now you can now we could recreate that chainsaw gun in Gen 3 Onyx. So you could say, yeah, this gun literally shoots the disc, or maybe this gun shoots throwing knives. Like, if that's something that you really wanted to do, that's something I want to be able to set up the system to be modular enough to do, because I can only imagine the custom weapons that people could create. I mean, full auto rocket launchers, like dual wieldable, I don't know, like ray guns, because the ray gun probably won't be dual wieldable because it'll be a heavy weapon. But if you use like a pistol and you give it the beam weapon emitter, whatever you want to call it, like the beam fire mode, whatever you want to call it, then you know, you can make dual wieldable beams or something. Like, you know, the custom game modes could go crazy. Like, you know, I guess if you really wanted to, I could allow you to like spawn even like pulse blades and stuff, so you could like shoot pulse blades to like mark the entire map. I'm sure that that could become a custom game mode of, like, you know, it's like a invisible maze or something, and you have to shoot pulse blades in order to mark people, and then you have to swap to another weapon to like shoot them, or I don't know. There's quite a lot of, you know, shotgun with 50 cal rounds. Yeah, you could do that. Have a you know counter. You know, yep. I do be saying you know a lot. You know. The only downside of that system is like setting up custom damage values, because the way that my damage system works, it, like, if we go look at the assault rifle, this is the damage, like there's a base damage value, and then it has different values for health and shield and like fall off distances and headshot distances, or like headshot damage. It's got the fall off ranges and stuff like that. So that's not really like, as far as user end goes, this isn't very intuitive. I'm sure I could probably create a menu, but I don't know how creating a custom damage class would go. So I'll have to look into that a little more when I get to that point, but that's the idea. So first we got to actually make the systems. So this is what I got done this morning before I nodded off and went and took a nap. Basically, we've got this input fire where whenever you press shoot, whenever you press and release the fire key, it'll set a variable in the fire type saying, you know, that you have it pressed, and then it'll call this custom event, and this custom event can be overridden in... oh, I did not want to do that. Can be overridden in both of the child components. So for full auto, you know, we'll check every frame if fire input is pressed, and like if the time since our last shot is greater than or equal to a specific, you know, our fire rate, then we'll allow another shot, and it'll do the same code up here. And then for semi-auto, it'll just do the code up here. So, but semi-auto will also contain code for like bursts, because a burst is technically a semi-auto, since you have to press shoot for every single consecutive burst you want to shoot. So, but the semi-auto will also contain burst code. I'm not going to create a separate burst component. That's fine. I mean, who knows? Maybe I will. We'll have to see when we get there. But yeah, the issue is last night I kind of stopped thinking about where exactly I wanted to do all my code, but I think I've mostly figured it out, so. And the issue is a lot of this weapon system code is baked into the player, which I don't want. Like, I finally moved my grenade stuff into a grenade system, so this has like all of the code related to grenades. The only thing that's in the player now is when you actually want to throw a grenade, it like asks if that can throw a grenade, and then it does all the things. So all right. And then we also need to build dual wielding into the weapon system, but that'll be probably something I do tomorrow night. I should have a full night of coding tomorrow night, so yeah. I don't know where to start, because basically once I start the full code like change, I will basically not be able to package or honestly test a lot of things, so I'm trying to figure out where exactly I want to start on this in order to get this in the right place. I guess technically the fire types are where I should start working, because that'll start changing how I do the code in here. So yeah, let's work on that. So shooting, we've got the client shoot tick, server shoot tick, and input shoot tick. 3 different things. Yeah. I was going to call this fire rate, but I don't want to use fire rate anymore. Because the way I was doing it previously is I go back to here. Like the fire rate is a full value, and then it just divides that by 1, or 1 divided by this determines the actual like time between shots. The issue is this gets tedious of like, okay, What if you just want to increase the time between shots by like 0.025? So, what is that, 1/40th? You know, if you want to increase the time between shots to by 1/40th of a second, that's kind of hard to do in here, just by changing this number. So it's just easier to do it as the actual time between shots, but I don't really know what I want to call that variable. I guess no, screw it. We're just gonna stick with that system. If I really need to, I can just do the math. Yeah, no, all streams are kept. So, you know, if you go here and you just go to live, literally every show, look at the exact same thumbnail. Should probably create a new thumbnail for streams. You know, every single stream is still here. So, there's proof that I've been working on it this entire time. We're just gonna in theory, that's all we need for semi-auto. Because we don't actually need on fire released, because semi-auto, you know, doesn't do anything on released. Yeah, I think that's all we should need for semi. And really the only thing we need, other than if we do the burst stuff, which I'm starting to think I might do as a... I'm probably going to do that as a separate component now that I'm thinking about it, just because that's going to also have extra variables for... That came out in August? No, I've never even heard of that. Josh Brolin was in it? Is it like a horror movie? Now that I'm thinking about it, semi-auto is basically the exact same as full auto, except the only difference is that in here, instead of setting fire input press to false, we just call that. Have you seen The Gorge with Miles Teller and what's her name? Anya Taylor-Joy? Honestly, I watched that with my brother. I thought it was a pretty good movie. Like, as far as newer movies go, I quite enjoyed it a lot. So, it's I think it's on Apple TV. Let me see. Yeah, it says it's on Prime Video, but it requires the add-on, which I assume is the Apple TV add-on, but it's on Apple TV. So, I don't know if you could watch it anywhere else, unfortunately. But I honestly really liked it. Yeah, I'm not either. I only was able to watch it because my brother is. But you know, I liked it. I recommend watching it. Yeah, completely legal. We were talking about a movie that I had seen, like, I want to say like a year ago, maybe, called The Gorge. It's... Just watch the trailer. I'm not gonna spoil anything. Honestly, yeah, it's a pretty good movie. Alright, now the question is... trying to figure out, because of the way that I do this, Basically, what I want to do is, hopefully by the end of the stream, I want to convert both or all of my weapons to actually using these two components. So I'm having to look through this code and see what functionality I'm actually going to need to add to this stuff. I mean, I guess from the trailer, yeah. But once you actually start watching the movie, it's I would say not even close to that. It's honestly like the trailer's not that much different from the movie, but like it's not what I was expecting. So, but it was still a very, very good movie, I think. Yeah. The fact that it's only on Apple TV is kind of stupid. Yeah, there were yeah, I don't care. There we go. Stupid. Yeah, that's the reality of modern day big companies. Everything has to be exclusive. Actually, that's not even modern day. Just so many things have been exclusive for ages. I'm gonna have to pass that shoot boolean through the custom tick as well. Yeah. Because basically for semi-auto, I need to set that to be false. Methinks. Yeah, I know. That's why like Halo Combat Evolved, whatever, not Combat Evolved, Campaign Evolved. That coming to PlayStation, I'm honestly like, okay, great. Finally, PlayStation players get a Halo game. I was hoping to be the well, I guess technically there's Splitgate, which just relaunched yesterday. But I was hoping that Onyx was gonna kind of be the first like Halo-like game on PlayStation. Unfortunately, your boy took too long, and go figure, the AAA companies are gonna AAA companies are. I just realized my Stream Deck my Stream Deck application was not launched, so I don't have access to any of my Stream Deck hotkeys. There we go. I have yet to play it. I installed it yesterday, and I'm planning to play it with some buddies tomorrow. However, it seems like it's better only because they took out the factions and whatnot, and so now you don't have these weird faction abilities that just made no sense to me personally. I thought the abilities were fun. They just made no sense. I just think that they should have turned them into map pickups. But what did they do? No, they just took out 90% of them. Which is also stupid. You spent all the time making these things. Now they have like map power-ups. You've got speed boost, which is like the rush from the Eros like faction. You've got an overshield now. And then you have the Meridian hypersight, but instead of it marking it for your entire team, it only marks it for you. Release V1 at $80? Absolutely not, dude. You want to see what version 1 looked like? Gen 1 was horrible, my guy. Actually, it's on YouTube. This is Gen 2. This right here is Gen 1. Gen 1 was not goated. While this plays, I'm gonna see if I can find... Listen to those sounds. Listen to how bad that is. I mean, I will say the gameplay has stayed fairly consistent from Gen 1. Like, a lot of this has stayed fairly consistent. Except for the sword. The sword was like a 3-hit. Hey, he got cooked. Actually, this is Gen 1 after animations. You really want to see Gen 1? This is what I consider Gen 1 to be. Oh boy, why are these videos so short? This is what I consider Gen 1 to be. Me staring at a wall, apparently. Look at that. Testing the grappling hook. This was horrible. No cooldown on the grappling hook. This thing was so unbad. No mantling either. I don't even think there was lunging in this version. Oh yeah, the old wall hacks, where it would darken everything in the world, and then put an outline on players. This was just horrible. This is awful gameplay. His UI is all. I mean, this was literally like. Yeah, this was probably 6 months into learning Unreal Engine. The OG emblems? Technically all of those are in. All the emblems have basically never changed. Like, look, just look how stiff everything is. The reticles were so thick. There was no melee. This was such a bad... Like, it was fun, I guess. But looking back on it, this is just a horrible gameplay. Though apparently I was cracked at it. But yeah, no, see, these are the emblems. So these are like the base emblems. And then we got these ones that we had a guy make. So yeah, we've got and then we've also got the backgrounds, which were all of these. So yeah, no, I definitely need to get the emblem creation back in. Also, for those of you who don't know, if y'all are interested, Lord of the Rings is currently going to be back in theaters. I don't know if it's like all across the US for those that are in the US. But Lord of the Rings is going to be in theaters in January. So it's the extended versions though, so they're like 4 hours long. So if that's something you're interested in, be aware. I'm currently planning on hopefully going to go watch it with some friends. But it looks like it might be a very small group. Really? I think they're good movies. Already see ya. Alright, apparently I just don't use this anymore. Well, that's good to know. Cool. Well, that cleans up that a little bit. I'm just realizing a lot of the stuff, like where I put a lot of this code. Pretty stupid if you ask me. This was, I mean, the weapon system was literally the first thing I ever coded in this build, so it makes sense that going back and looking at it now, it doesn't really fit any of my current design philosophies. Like, I'm using the actor component stuff a lot now, as you can see by all of these actor components on the left. Basically, my new philosophy that I've learned over the last, like, year and a half is majority of code should be in the actor components. And the actor should kind of just be like a wrapper, essentially, for telling the actor components how to communicate with each other. So there should be minimal code in the player. Not none, just minimal. Because the actor should just be saying that, hey, these components should all be on the player, and that this is how these components communicate. And that'll be the same thing for the weapons, where, you know, the weapon will say, or like the fire type will be saying, oh, hey, somebody pressed the fire key, and it'll say we're trying to fire, and, you know, we're allowed to fire, or like, now we need to ask the magazine ammo, do we have the ability to fire? And so, you know, the weapon will have a function called can fire, which it already does, and it'll just check like, oh, do we have ammo, do we have, you know, are we not meleeing, and are we not performing another action, and it'll just work. Trust me, bro. There's so much code in here that it's prototype code that I need to clean up. I'm thinking about this all wrong. I don't think I actually need this. If I need it, I'll re-add it. For now, I'm going to disable this. I don't think I actually need that boolean. I forgot that I changed the way that I do my booleans for GMC and not require it to be constantly sent over the network. So like all the server does is it just checks if we're trying to shoot, and then it runs the code. And this instead will be getting called on the weapons system instead of here. So yeah, this is going to be a major code rework. I'm glad that I totally gave myself a lot of time to actually think about this. Because I'm looking through this code now and actually realizing how much of a... major rewrite this is actually going to be. On Val. Ew. No, you're good. I played some Val the other day. So. Jeez. Yeah, this is gonna be a major, honestly, probably gonna be one of those things where once I start revamping this fully, like I shouldn't really be looking at even copying and pasting code. I should just be trying to code this from the ground up with very minimal code being copy and pasted over. I mean, I liked most of my weapon system. I think the only two things that like whenever I do my animation stuff, I'm only ever checking for one weapon. But sometimes if you're dual wielding, it's going to need to do both weapons. Let's probably just pass through the weapon slot instead of the actual weapon. It's going to require an update on my animation system too. Oof. Once it's updated though, it'll be good. Have I broken anything? Does this still work? I don't think I've touched anything that should actually stop it.
You're the new leader.
It's so weird. Every time I like don't touch this game for a couple days, because I've been binging season, not season. I've been binging Stranger Things because I haven't watched it, and my friends are hosting a watch party, and so they're like, "Oh, you gotta watch it." So I've been binging that, and I haven't touched Onyx for like the last 2 days, and it's so weird. Every time I come back to it, I always forget how, in my opinion, how good it feels. Can you seriously not just... That's kind of dumb, but okay. There we go. Now, in the weapon system, on begin play, we can get owner. Actually, what we should do where do I set up input? Right here. And we should create a custom function called enable input. Huh. Interesting. I haven't really done a deep dive into Unreal's new input system. I need to understand it more. Weird, I can't zoom now. Interesting, okay. We'll just disable that, but we can start setting up the code. just for testing purposes. Actually, no. I shouldn't be doing that. I should just be setting up the system. I was gonna go ahead and throw a fire mode. I guess is probably the better name to call it. I'm gonna go rename that. I was gonna go ahead and add like the full auto fire mode to the base weapon, but the issue is with how I'm trying to refactor this. Each weapon will have its own actor now, instead of just the data assets. And that's gonna require the weapon system to also be set up, so probably set up the functions in there of like granting weapons. Yeah, weapon added, here we go. No, I have not played any of the Dark Souls. I haven't played a lot of single player games. There's genuinely a lot of single player games that I have just never touched. Yeah, I think the last single player game that I played was the Spider-Man remaster when it came to PC. The like Insomniac Spider-Man. Yeah, I really don't play games all that much anymore, to be honest. Like, I only play multiplayer games, and that's because I only play them if my friend, and that's because I only play games when my friends are on. So I basically only play multiplayer games at this point. I just don't have, like, with how much time I spend on this, and how much time I spend on doing, like, my engineering projects and stuff that I do whenever I have some other free time that I don't feel like spending on Onyx, I spend it on doing some 3D printing and engineering projects like my lightsaber that I sent, which is almost finished. Because I just spend so much time on that, aside from work, I just really don't have time, honestly, for first-person games. So, or not first-person games, I just don't have time for games. I mean, yeah, I will, I have a massive watch list of just movies and TV shows that everybody, like, has recommended me to watch. And I'm slowly picking things off the list, but the issue is people keep recommending me stuff faster than I can take stuff off the list. It's the same thing with games. I've been recommended so many games, and I just, by the time I'm able to take something off the game list, people are just adding more games onto it. So at some point, I will get to playing other games. But until that time happens, then for now, it'll be, I just won't play a lot of games. Wow, really? That's all I need to do? Interesting. Basically, all this code is going to stay the same, except this will be gone, and this will instead be a callback from the weapon system that I'll do instead, so. Cool. That's technically done. And I just need the remove weapon. If I make this, because if this isn't private, I'm pretty sure I can view this on the player. Weapon system, yeah, I can view weapons. If I make that private, same thing with wants to shoot and equipped slot. If I make all these private, in theory I shouldn't see it over here. And I don't. Okay, good. What I want. I don't want any unnecessary... That's the whole point of me reworking this, is I don't want any unnecessary variables where I don't need them. I mean, hence the unnecessary part. So, that'll have to get updated. This code is fine. So many actor components in this list. And I'm just now realizing I'm probably going to need to do a melee, or like a melee lunge actor component, so I can move the lunge code into that. That way any weapons that are melee weapons will have the lunge or the melee fire mode. That way whenever you're calling a melee stuff, it'll be able to communicate with the lunge actor component on the player, and it'll just keep everything separated. Only things that need to have references will have references. So oh. Dang. I was an idiot. with the whole way that the system is coded. I mean, I guess I didn't know any better back then, but I know better now. So looking back on this is a very stupid system. What kind of idiot would code this? It's functional, yeah. Not very modular, though. Oh. There we go. There we go. Alright, we've got functions now for adding weapons and removing weapons from the weapons system. Finally. And we'll probably have to have a way to get the data asset, because we're going to have to be able to check if the weapon is dual wieldable. That way, if we're trying to add it into a dual wielded slot and it's not dual wieldable, then we can make sure to not add it. Who knew that creating my entire weapons system from scratch was going to be such a mind melter? Like, I'm looking at this stuff, and I know what I have to do. Maybe it's just because I'm tired and I'm exhausted from going out and having fun with friends last night, but this is like melting my brain. I cannot think. I also like to think about my code before I actually code it, and I didn't think about this at all. I just kind of jumped into it assuming it was going to be easy, and I was very, very much wrong. 43 and 13. Brother, I need you on my squad. My squad can't do crap. And I have two plats and or diamonds and ascendants carrying me. So they're smurfing for me. And we still lose. I got smurfs on my team and we still lose. You're just better. Yeah, I don't understand people that can use the classic like that. I literally had my Valorant like recap or whatever. It straight up said my worst weapon was the classic. So yeah, do with that what you will. I'm horrible with the classic. I'm trying to get better with the Guardian though, because I used to be really bad about not used to. I am really bad about spraying. And so I started using the Guardian a lot more to try and get me out of that spraying and just like get me better at like one tapping, especially at distance. For some reason I spray it a lot at distance and it screws me over. So I started using the Guardian a lot and I got pretty good at finally like one tapping, and that's where I started actually getting good. And then I stopped playing Valorant for like 6 or 7 months, and now that I'm sort of semi getting back into it, I'm right back into my old habits of just spraying. So I need to start using the Guardian, but I need to get a skin for it because I don't have a skin for it. That's like one of the very few guns that I don't have a skin for. So need to find me. I know what gun skin I want for it. I was looking through them the other day and I officially found out which one I do want. Yeah, it's really good, and it's so satisfying to get that one tap, more so than the Vandal. So Honestly, I might end the stream here soon. Mainly because I need to go run some errands before I go to sleep for work tonight. Might stream tomorrow morning. I don't know. I don't know what my day is going to look like tomorrow, so I don't actually know how I'm going to plan my sleep schedule. Y'all know my days off, my sleep schedule is kind of whack, so we'll see. But for the most part, I need to sit down and actually plan a little bit more of how I'm doing this. I kind of have gotten, like, now that I've actually sat down and started coding this on stream, I was not prepared to code this at all, so I did not have a game plan. Honestly, I'm kind of happy with how I've gone through and done some of this, but I definitely need to do more of a game plan. But I think what I want to set up is I need to move this code. Basically, the next step will be moving all of this code into the weapon system, which shouldn't be that. Honestly, most of this will be copy paste. But I don't know. I might just end stream and kind of just look through this code a little bit, because like there's so, like, this was so hard coded into the player that, like, I have a hit scan shooting component, and that lives on the player, not on the weapon. Because it needs to be bound through GMC. So I can't create this at runtime like I can the weapons. So all right. I want to see it. My Val recap was so funny. I was looking at it, I'm like, yep, that sounds about right. And then it was like, oh, this person died the least in your squad. I'm like, I don't even know who that person is. It's probably somebody who we met through Val. We added them and played like 2 extra games with them. And I'm like, I have no idea who this person is. So why are you showing them in my Val recap? I've probably played a single game with them. Show me the people who I've played with consistently, who are actually part of my squad. Yeah, see, this is the thing that I don't know. I mean, I guess I can just reuse this function of the can fire. But for server-side checks to make sure people aren't cheating the fire rate or anything like that, this is that's where I'm having a little bit of trouble figuring out how I want to do the system, because with GMC it makes it a little harder. I've got all these different functions. Which I guess this will be getting nuked, because this will now be in the weapon itself. So this I'm not too worried about. I'm not worried about the. I need to write this down on my dry erase board. I like my dry erase board for actual like notes, and then this stuff. I don't care if there's a new version of Notion. Yeah. Setting up the projectile stuff too is going to be interesting, like whenever I implement like the rocket launcher or the disc or whatever. That's going to be a fun one. So I don't know if I want that to be on the weapon or if I want that to be on the player. Hit scan is something that needs rollback. I guess technically projectile stuff needs rollback too, because it'll roll back time to when you shot the projectile, so it can get how much to lead the target by, And then depending on the lag compensation method, that'll determine how it actually fires the projectile in real time, not in rollback time. So I guess technically it does need rollback. And so I guess if it does need a rollback, it probably should live on the player and not on the weapon. Because we don't need actual hit detection data for projectiles. We only need the we really just need the actual thing. So honestly, it might be able to live on the weapon. We'll see. I'm not there yet. So, yeah, Vandal's my best gun too. I'm surprised they didn't say like Frenzy was my worst gun. I think I've used the Frenzy once this year. I used the Classic a lot more than I used the Frenzy. Actually, or Shorty. Out of the pistol, Sheriff's... Actually, Ghost is probably my best. I need to get better with the Sheriff. I need to start buying Sheriffs more often. Same for the same reason of the Guardian. Like, with the Ghost, I just spam. But if I start buying just Sheriffs and Guardians, it might force me to, like... be a lot more thoughtful with my reticle placement. And my... hopefully non-spraying. But... yeah. Yep. Well, you can blame Van. And I actually have... you know, it says in general chat, Van was like, oh, I'll keep you on topic. That way, you know, you can get some good work done. Nah. Van has derailed this stream like 4 times now. Nah, you're good. That's how these streams always go. I don't mind. But he was just talking about how he was playing Valorant. And so I talked about my Val recap and how I said the Classic was my worst gun. Which makes sense because I don't really use it. I'm surprised it didn't say like Ares or Odin or something because I don't touch those. Yep, there's a Valorant recap. I don't remember how you get to it, but you probably just look at Valorant recap and you just type in your username and it generates it for you. You can see it for like the first 2 sections. Or it's called Valorant Flashback, I guess. Yeah. You just go here, type in your name. What do you mean user not found? Is there space in it? There we go. Yeah, there's a space in it. Yeah, so you can skip the V5 and the global, and then yeah, you can just skip through this until it gets to your stack, and then it generates it. And so, yeah, then you just do this. Let's just keep going through these. See, that's the thing. There's Jester. I think I know who that is, but I think I've played 1 game with them this year. Why are they in my Valorant recap? I got you, Ogechi. Yeah, I definitely, obviously, have won the most with ISO. I only play ISO, basically. I very rarely play Neon anymore. And I probably played Yoru like 5 times in the entirety of this year. And I killed most Reyna and got killed by most Reyna because I hate Reynas. So, makes sense that I seek them out. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, see, but worst weapons class, that doesn't make I am pretty bad with the classic though, so yeah, I don't clutch very often. Don't leave me to be last alive. We should host a Valorant play session in this in the Onyx server. That'd be fun. Yeah. Hey, it'll be fine. Yeah, skip this. I don't care about this. All right, Al. Here we go. Honestly, same. I only play with friends, and that's the only reason why I can't enjoy it. Yeah. I don't know any of these people. That's crazy. That's a crazy name. I'm not gonna judge. That's a crazy name. I'm not gonna judge. That's a. What are these names? What is your team names? These are crazy. That's crazy. All right, let's see your personal stats. Won the most with Omen. Least with Deadlock's height. Killed Clove most and got killed by Reyna the most. Kind of funny. I feel like Reyna just does a lot of killing, so makes sense. Phantom. That's crazy. Your worst was also the classic. W. That's stupid. So unserious. 11 first blood's a lot. You've only clutched twice. Dang. It's 3 less than me. Clutched on 7 times. Dang. Yeah. That's insane. I don't get how the classic is my worst gun. It had to be something like the Ares. I guess I don't know. I guess I don't really buy the Ares in an actual match ever. I only buy that in like customs to be annoying. Good to know it's at least not the op. I'm at least cracked with the op and Marshall. And whatever the other one is, I always forget the name. Outlaw. That's what it is. Yeah. Alright, I'm slowly putting together a game plan for the next maybe stream tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm thinking I'm going to work on moving a lot of this code to the actual like fire code to the weapon system. And once that's moved over to the weapon system, I can start testing. I can start creating like child weapon blueprints, and we can start testing the new weapon system, but maybe stream tomorrow. It depends on what time I go to sleep, which honestly might be like an hour. I kind of need to order food because I'm not gonna leave my apartment and go shopping. I'm just gonna order it to my order. I get free shipping for food, so for groceries. So I'll just order. I always just order groceries and just go and sit on the couch and like watch a movie while they're shopping for it, and then it shows up and wow, that's crazy. I got groceries at my door. It also stops me from impulse buying a lot, so technically I save more money. But yeah, it depends what time I go to bed and how much I sleep. Because if I'm not mistaken, tonight's gonna be a long night. I can see real quick though. Yeah, tonight's gonna be a long night. So this schedule, or this week, I've been working quite a bit of hours this week. Next week I'll go back to my normal amount of hours worked. So next week won't be as bad, but basically we have till Sunday night to get this weapon system pass completely finished, which will be like this is all the stuff. So yeah. But yeah, I'll come up with a game plan to actually figure out what I want to do. I now that I've actually looked at this system a little more, given it some thought. Like I said, I haven't touched this for a couple days, so kind of forgot all of what the weapon system had. But now that I know, I think I've got a decent game plan in mind. The only thing I'm worried about, the client shoot tick and the client input shoot tick. These are not horrible. They're not hard. The thing that I'm a little worried about is the server shoot tick, only because it needs this. But this is going to technically be driven by the gun now, so yeah, we'll see. I'll come up with a game plan. I'll come up with something. I'm sure it's not gonna be that hard. I think I'm just overthinking it, and I'm just too tired to actually fully think about this properly. And that's the only reason why I'm ending stream early, is because I'm still exhausted. I went to sleep at like 5 a.m., woke up at 7 to stream, and was like, you know, maybe I could just sleep for another hour, and took another nap. So, and then I got up and was like, okay, I told you guys I would stream, so here I am. But I think I've got a somewhat decent game plan. So tomorrow we'll probably move a lot of that stuff in here, get the actual tick functions set up such that once we start converting over the actual weapon references, basically the majority of this code should just be set up and in theory should work out of the box. Who knows if it will or not. But yeah, we'll also start creating some helper functions for like, oh, get current equipped weapon, get dual wielded weapons, get is dual wielding. Like we'll start creating a lot of helper functions just to help in the code. And then start resetting up some temporary, like if we get to it, we'll start setting up some temporary dual wield code. So yeah. Somewhat of a game plan. I'll think about it more while I'm waiting for my groceries to get here, and then I might see y'all tomorrow. We'll see how exhausted I am after work. I will probably be extremely exhausted, but I might have enough energy to stream for like an hour or two. So yeah. On that note though, I will talk to you all later. So, take it easy, y'all. And maybe see you tomorrow. So, see ya.